Hello, hello. I'm Tanya Dalton, and this is another episode of Tanya TV. I have a question for you. Have you said recently, I wish I had time to read a book, but I'm just too busy? Or, I used to love to read, but I just don't have the time? I know, I used to say those things too. But here's the thing, reading really makes me happy. It makes me feel fulfilled. So I've really worked to try to make reading a little more of a priority in my day. So whether reading is just something you really enjoy or you want to prioritize it, there really are some easy ways to squeeze a little more reading into your day. So I've got 5 tips on how to make time for reading that I'd love to share with you. And don't forget to hit subscribe because I have new videos all the time. As I said, reading is something I truly enjoy. So my first tip is something I do all the time. I schedule a meeting with myself. I literally schedule it into my calendar. I write it down and I make a plan. So I actively carve out that time ahead of time. You've heard me talk in the past about how to block your time and how to batch your time. This is just another way of doing it. Even if it's just a beach read that you're looking to do, it's okay to make that time for yourself. And here's the thing, if you schedule it in your calendar, you'll treat it more like an appointment. Think about when you have a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment. You don't cancel that at the last minute, right? You make the appointment, it's a commitment, and you do it. So try putting it in your calendar. Maybe even set a reminder on your phone. Something like meeting at 1 p.m. with 15 pages of the book, The Joy of Missing Out. See if that doesn't help you find that time. And tip number 2 is to set it as a goal. Remember back in grade school when your teacher would give you an assignment and she would say, read for 30 minutes every day, or finish chapter 2 by Friday. You can do that for yourself. When you're working towards a goal, it makes you feel like you're actively working towards something. It makes you more likely to want to do it. But here's the great part. Instead of the teacher telling you what to do, you get to choose what you read and you get to choose how much you want to read. So maybe your goal is to read 1 book a month. Well, figure out how much you want to read each week to get that book finished. For example, in The Joy of Missing Out, there are 4 sections. So 1 section each week gets you to that goal of reading the book in a month. Now, there's lots of ways you can set these goals. One of the places that's really great to do this is Goodreads, which is a platform for other book lovers. You can set goals for yourself, and that helps hold you accountable. For example, this year, I set a goal of reading 40 books. So about 3 to 4 books every single month. It keeps track for me, and it shows me how far I am in my progress. And that just keeps encouraging me to keep reading more. And tip number 3 is to make it social. Just because you're reading a book doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Think about the fact that we love to gather in groups. Any party you've ever been to usually has people gathered together in one area, right? Usually the kitchen. That's because we love to get together with other people. That's just kind of part of our DNA. So consider reading your book with a friend or with a book club. So one of the ways that I do this is I read a book at the same time as my best friend. Now, we live in separate cities, in separate states, so we're hundreds of miles apart. But because we're reading the same book at the same time, we get on the phone and we'll chat about what we learned or what we thought about the different parts, and it's a way for us to connect even deeper. So there's all different ways you can get together with other people. You can do it in person, you can do it online. There's all kinds of book clubs out there. Now, when I was a new mom, I actually gathered together a mom's group and we divided our year into 3 sections. Parenting, marriage, and self-improvement. And we read a book for each one of those sections. And each month we'd gather at one of our houses, very low-key, very easy to do, and we would talk and we would really strip aside all of those facades of perfection and get to the heart of what we really wanted to improve upon in our lives. This is the thing with books and being social, is it really gives you a way to communicate and to really dive deeper into our relationships. So consider reading a book with a friend. Tip number 4 is to keep your book with you. Here's a secret. We all have hidden pockets of time in our day. We sometimes just don't even realize they're there. But think about how maybe you're waiting in line for carpool, or you're on the train on the way into the city for your commute. There's lots of times we're in line or there's a delay. Those are ideal pockets of time to make a little bit brighter. Normally what we do is we just scroll on our phone, right? Because it's there, it's convenient. While we're waiting in line at the DMV or at the grocery store, we just pull out our phone and we just default to that. But if you have your book with you and you put it in your bag or your purse, or even if you keep it in the glove compartment of your car, that gives you an ideal opportunity to squeeze a little bit of reading in. And that will actually make you a lot happier than just mindlessly scrolling on your phone. Tip number 5 is to consider using multiple platforms to get your reading done. Now, I love reading a physical book. There's something about turning those pages and the feel of it in my hand, but I also love to download the audiobook because oftentimes, especially if the author is reading their audiobook, you can hear their inflection. You get so much more of their intention behind their words when you can hear them speaking it. That's one of the reasons why I did the speaking for my audiobook for The Joy of Missing Out, because I really felt it was important for that to convey. So what I like to do is I like to listen to it on my audiobook, and then I have the physical book for squeezing and reading at other times, but I can also write down notes. The benefit of having the audiobook is it allows me to read while I'm going for a walk. It allows me to read when I'm in the shower even, or when I'm doing just about anything. I can listen to that audiobook. So that allows me to get a little bit further into the book and I can make notes on my physical copy. Now, one of the things you may not realize is when you use Audible, you can actually sync up your devices. So you can read and listen and it keeps track of your page that you're on. And that way you don't lose your place. So I'll make sure to put a link on instructions on how to do that in the notes below. And now I know I told you I had 5 tips for you, but I actually have a bonus tip because I really think it's important to make reading a family event. I used to be a teacher, so instilling a love of reading is really important to me. So one of the ways I did this with my students is I used to have dear time, drop everything and read. We would do it right after lunch where the kids would come back, we would all sit down and read, including me sitting at my desk. So when I became a mom, I started instilling this quiet reading time with my family as well. So we would all gather together in the living room, all 4 of us, John, Jack, Kate, and me. We were all sitting in the living room reading our books. And when the kids were little, they just flipped through a picture book, or they would do a sticker book or something like that kept them entertained. But here's the benefit. They saw reading as a priority, and that instilled a love of reading in my children. And the bonus was, not only was I role modeling for my kids that reading is important, but I also got more reading time in. Now in the summer, I love to do this in the afternoon when it's too hot to go outside and play. But in the winter and in the fall, I do in the evenings, right before bedtime. We all read together as a family. So consider making reading a little more of a family event. Now I hope these tips have really helped you find ways that you can squeeze a little more reading into your day. I know we feel like we don't have the time, but I promise you do. We just have to prioritize it. Now, if you'd love more ideas on how to fill your day with substance, I've got a podcast episode for you, episode 124, Finding Happiness, How to Fill Your Day with Substance, with several more tips and ideas on how you can bend time so your priorities get a little more of your time every single day. Now, I would love for you to comment below and share with me what is one book that you're excited to read and how are you going to make time to read that book. Okay, until next time, have a beautiful and productive week.